Hey there, friends. Welcome back to the Health Revival, your cozy corner on YouTube, where we share stories, wisdom, and a little bit of heart to help folks over 60 live their fullest, healthiest lives. If you're new here, this is a place where we talk about the things that matter: health, love, and the beauty of growing older with grace. We're all about weaving tales that make you laugh, reflect, and maybe even shed a tear, all while picking up some practical tips to make every day a little brighter. So, grab a cup of coffee, settle into your favorite chair, and let's dive into today's topic: old age relationships. Remember these four things carefully to live a new life. Now, let me paint you a picture. Imagine two people sitting on a porch swing, the kind that creaks just a little with every sway. They're in their golden years, hair silvered by time, hands weathered but still clasped together. The world around them is quieter now. No more chasing kids or climbing corporate ladders. But the love between them? It's still there, not as fiery as it was in their 20s, not as bold as in their 40s, but steady like a warm hearth glowing in the winter. That's the kind of love we're talking about today. The kind that doesn't just survive old age, but thrives in it, giving you a new lease on life. But here's the thing. To keep that love strong and healthy, there are four lessons we need to hold close. These aren't just tips, they're lifelines to a longer, happier life together. Let's start with a story from a small town in Ohio, where I met a couple named George and Martha. They'd been married for 47 years, and you could see the love in their eyes, even when they bickered over who made better pancakes. But George shared something with me one evening over a glass of sweet tea that stuck with me. He said, "When we hit our 60s, I thought our bedroom days were behind us. I figured that's what happens when you get old. You trade passion for card games and early bedtimes." But Martha, she surprised me. She wanted to keep that spark alive, and I tried to keep up, thinking it was my duty as a husband. He chuckled, but his eyes grew serious. I pushed myself too hard, ended up in the hospital with my heart racing like a runaway train. That's when I learned the first lesson. Love in old age needs to be measured, like pouring just the right amount of cream into your coffee. Too much, and it spills over. That brings us to our first big idea: moderation in physical intimacy. When we're younger, we might think love is all about grand gestures and endless energy. But in our 60s, 70s, and beyond, it's about listening to our bodies. Our hearts aren't as spry, our joints creak a little louder, and that's okay. It's part of the journey. The key is to find a rhythm that keeps you connected without wearing you out. There's a little trick doctors sometimes share called the rule of 9. Take the first digit of your age, say 7 for 70, multiply it by 9, and that's roughly how many times you might aim for intimacy over 4 weeks. For 70, that's 63, or about 3 times in 6 weeks. But here's the real wisdom: no rule fits everyone. If once a month feels right for you, that's perfect. If more, great. Just don't push past what your body can handle. George learned that the hard way, but after his scare, he and Martha found a balance. They didn't let the pressure to perform steal their joy. Instead, they focused on what felt natural, and it brought them closer than ever. Now, let's linger on George and Martha for a moment, because their story leads us to something deeper. After George's hospital stay, Martha told me something that warmed my heart. She said, "I didn't need him to prove anything in the bedroom. What I wanted was him, his laugh, his hand on mine, the way he hums old Sinatra tunes when he's washing dishes. That's what keeps me in love." That's our second lesson: prioritize emotional connection. In old age, love isn't about chasing the wild passion of youth. It's about the quiet moments, the shared glances over breakfast, the way you still tease each other about who snores louder. It's the comfort of knowing someone's got your back, even when the world feels heavy. I think of a couple I knew in Tennessee, Clara and Joe. They were in their late 60s, and their house was always filled with music. Old vinyl records spinning Ella Fitzgerald or Louis Armstrong. Clara told me they didn't spend much time worrying about the physical side of things anymore. Instead, they dance in their living room, slow and steady, her head on his shoulder. "That's our love now," she said, "and it's enough." They'd sit together in the evenings, sharing stories about their kids, their grandkids, or just the way the sunset looked that day. It wasn't about grand gestures. It was about being present, about letting their hearts speak louder than their bodies. And you know what? They glowed with happiness, the kind that comes from knowing you're truly seen and cherished. But let's not sugarcoat things. Sometimes we get it wrong. I remember a story from a friend in Georgia about a man named Henry. Henry was a proud guy, always boasting about how he could still keep up with his wife Lila, even at 72. He thought love meant proving he was still the man he was at 30. One night, he tried something he'd read about online, a position that sounded exciting but was far too strenuous for his aging body. The next morning, he was in the ER with a fractured hip. It wasn't just the physical pain that hurt, it was the embarrassment, the feeling that he'd let Lila down. That's our third lesson. Choose safe and suitable practices. Our bodies in old age are like fine china, beautiful, but they need gentle handling. Stick to what feels comfortable, like simple, low-effort positions that don't strain your back or knees. If you're not sure what's safe, talk to your doctor. They've heard it all, and they'll guide you. Henry and Lila learned to laugh about it eventually, but it was a wake-up call. They started focusing on what worked for them, and their love grew stronger for it. Now, let's take a step back and talk about something that ties all these lessons together. Love at any age is about mutual respect. But in old age, when we're more vulnerable, that respect becomes sacred. I'll never forget a conversation I had with a woman named Evelyn in a small diner in Virginia. She was 68, with a smile that could light up a room, but her eyes carried a shadow. She told me about her marriage to Frank, a man she'd loved for 40 years. In their later years, Frank started pressuring her for intimacy, even when she was exhausted or in pain from arthritis. I didn't want to disappoint him, she said, her voice breaking, but it felt like I was losing myself. One night, she broke down, begging him to stop. It was a turning point, not the good kind. Their marriage frayed, not because they didn't love each other, but because Frank didn't listen. That's our fourth lesson. Love must be consensual, never forced. Evelyn's story isn't unique, and it's a hard one to hear. Forcing intimacy doesn't just hurt the body, it wounds the soul. Love in old age should be a dance where both partners move together, not one dragging the other along. If one of you isn't feeling it, that's okay. There are so many ways to show love. Cook a favorite meal, watch a sunset, or just sit quietly holding hands. Evelyn eventually found peace by living with her daughter, but she wished Frank had understood sooner. Love isn't about taking, she told me. It's about giving, and sometimes giving means letting go. These stories, George and Martha, Clara and Joe, Henry, Evelyn, they're not just tales, they're warnings and promises. Get it wrong, and you risk your health, your heart, even your life. But get it right, and you open the door to a new life, one where love and health walk hand in hand. There's an old saying I love from the poet Robert Browning: grow old along with me. The best is yet to be. That's the promise of old age done right, a love that's gentle, respectful, and deeply fulfilling. Let's weave in a bit of wisdom from the ages, because our ancestors knew a thing or two about living well. The philosopher Plato once said, "We are twice armed if we fight with faith." In love, that faith is in each other, in knowing when to push and when to pause. Or take Ben Franklin's words, "He that is rich is wise." In old age, richness isn't money. It's knowing when enough is enough, when to savor the quiet joys instead of chasing fleeting thrills. These ideas echo through time, reminding us that love in our later years is a delicate balance, like a river that runs deep but flows gently. I think of my own grandparents, who lived in a little house in Kentucky. They were in their 70s when I was a kid, and I'd watch them move through their days with a rhythm that felt like a song. Grandpa would bring Grandma a cup of tea every morning, and she'd pat his hand, her eyes crinkling with a smile. They didn't need grand displays. Their love was in the small things, the way they leaned on each other, literally and figuratively. When Grandpa passed, Grandma told me, "We didn't have everything, but we had enough." And that was plenty. That's the kind of love we're aiming for, a love that sustains, that heals, that carries you into a new chapter of life. So how do we make this real? Start with honesty. Talk to your partner about what you both want and need. It might feel awkward, but those conversations are the foundation of trust. Check in with your body. Maybe that means a visit to the doctor to make sure you're both healthy enough for intimacy. And above all, listen. Listen to your partner's words, their silences, their hesitations. Love in old age is a partnership, not a performance. As we wrap up, I want to leave you with a thought. Old age isn't the end of love. It's a new beginning. It's a chance to rediscover each other, to find joy in the simple act of being together. Remember these 4 things. Keep intimacy moderate, cherish emotional connection, choose safe practices, and always respect each other's wishes. Do that, and you're not just living, you're thriving, building a new life filled with warmth and meaning. Well, folks, that's all for today's story. I hope it touched your heart and gave you something to think about. If you enjoyed this, please hit that subscribe button and give us a like over at the Health Revival. Share this video with someone you love. It might just spark a conversation that brings you closer. Here's wishing you a beautiful day filled with love and light. May God bless you and keep you always. Until next time, take care, and we'll see you soon.